On today's show, the Houston Rockets take care of business on the second night of a back-to-back against the Charlotte Hornets. It was a total blowout. This game was not even remotely close. How were the Rockets able to be so dominant? And could Cam Whitmore be the missing offensive piece for this squad? It's all coming up on today's Locked On Rockets.
This is Mission Control, Houston.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to all. What's up and welcome to another edition of Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. As always, I'm your host, Jackson Gatlin, native Houstonian and credentialed media member. I'm also the host of Locked On NBA Thursdays. Be sure to follow along wherever you listen to your podcasts or on YouTube. Just search Locked On Rockets, where the best way that you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop us a comment while you're there. Tell us your thoughts on this Rockets 114-101 win against the Charlotte Hornets. The final box score betraying just how much of a blowout this game really was. Give us your thoughts there. Just say go Rockets. Helps us out a ton. Also subscribe to the new daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. Would sincerely appreciate that. Now, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are right around the corner, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with a $250 bonus bet if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And as always, thanks so much for making Locked On Rockets part of your day every single day, whether it's on your way to work, on your lunch break, in the gym. Thank you so much for being an everyday, or if you're sneaking away from family to capitalize on your diehard Houston Rockets addiction. I respect it. Rockets get the 114-101 win against the Charlotte Hornets. Second night of a back-to-back, and games like this are always tough to win, regardless of the quality of opponent on the other side of the aisle. And look, this is a Charlotte Hornets team that did embarrass the Rockets earlier this season at home in Toyota Center, so the Rockets wanted to be able to get their get back, so to speak, and they did just that in this game. They were dominant from start to finish. The Hornets never led in this game. Rockets led by as many as 34 in this one. It was an outright just trampling. You know, the final score, 114-101. The Hornets went on a run kind of into the third quarter, most of the fourth quarter, where, you know, they got hot from three. They started knocking down some shots, and they were basically playing against the Rockets' third stringers for most of that fourth quarter, as Ime Udoka was looking to rest up the rest of the starters. Jalen Green only 24 minutes, Fred VanVleet only 29 minutes, Sengun only 27 minutes. You know, the Hornets made their run when the Rockets' third stringers basically went scoreless at the tail end of this game. It was not remotely close. They had them doubled up at halftime, 62 to just 31. Only 31 first half points allowed by the Houston Rockets defense. The defense was suffocating. The Hornets shot making was less than stellar, and it was a pretty ugly game, all things considered. And you could tell this was a Rockets team that wanted to go out there and make sure that they got theirs back, right? That they got their revenge from the Hornets kind of embarrassing them earlier this season. And look, Hornets not at full strength, no Brandon Miller, no Trey Mann, multiple other guys out for the Hornets. Rockets also still, you know, not at full strength either. Tari Eason still out due to the left injury maintenance that he's going through. Rockets trying to get him some rest and rehabilitation there. I don't think it's anything serious. I poked around a little bit. It's nothing worrisome. It's just rest for Tari. It's just injury maintenance, and, you know, I wouldn't read too far into anything further with the leg injury issue. And then Dillon Brooks had some ankle soreness, so he did not participate in this game. So we got Amin Thompson in the starting lineup. More on his game here in just a moment. Some shot making from Amin Thompson in this one. Some exciting stuff going on there. But the guy that I want to talk about here, the story of the game to me, I think, is Cam Whitmore, who continues to make the most of his opportunities given, you know, despite the fact, or with the fact that Tari Eason is missing time right now due to injury. It was a little peculiar that the Rockets were a little undermanned in some games a couple weeks back, and, you know, kind of on that West Coast road trip, and the Rockets did not recall Cam Whitmore to join the team back then. And, you know, I mentioned that maybe Cam Whitmore was in the doghouse a little bit, and after doing some poking, some prodding, and kind of asking around a little bit, the idea was essentially just that the Rockets really wanted Cam Whitmore to be fully bought in to the team identity, to the defensive side of the ball, to all the little things that Ime Udoka really preaches. And not to say that he wasn't fully bought in before, but just kind of wanting to make sure that he understood doing the little things, right? Boxing out, rebounding, paying attention on defense, not being a black hole offensively with the basketball, all those little things, right, that go into playing winning team basketball, right? The Rockets last season were forced to play Cam by necessity because of injuries and missing certain guys, and he was incredibly productive in the minutes that he had last season, but he also had some moments where he very much looked like a rookie, especially on the defensive side of the basketball. And we know that to play for Ime Udoka, to get impactful minutes, to not just get garbage time play for Ime, you have to be fully bought in on the defensive side of the basketball. And it looks like that's kind of what it took for Cam Whitmore to be able to break back into this rotation. Spent some time at the G League. The Rockets obviously liked the film that they got. They saw him, really working on all the little things that he needed to improve on to get himself back in the rotation. And now he's, got an opportunity in front of him without Tari Eason, with him getting rest these past few games, with no Dillon Brooks in this one. Cam Whitmore showed up and he was impactful in a huge way. He was one of 5 Rockets players to score in double figures. He had 17 points on 7 of 15 shooting. I apologize. 7 of 16 shooting. They changed that box score from the last time I looked at it. 3 of 8 from downtown. He had 8 rebounds, 2 steals, 1 block shot. Did have 4 turnovers in there, so some sloppy moments with the basketball, some turnovers, obviously, and still some areas that need to be cleaned up. But for the most part, you're seeing ways in which Cam Whitmore was able to impact the game outside of just his scoring. We know that he's a bucket. That part of his game has never been in question. He can fill it up with the best of them. He's already an elite play finisher. It's about finding ways to impact the game outside of your ability to score the basketball. And it felt like Cam did that in a variety of ways in this one. Again, he had the 8 rebounds, 3 of them on the offensive glass. He had some good offensive glass cleanups in this game. Got a couple steals. One of them was a little risky, kind of a risky play on the ball. You got to act, when he was in the backcourt and lunged at the basketball and was able to come away with the ball. That one was a risky steal, but you like his aggressiveness on the defensive side of the ball. And he had a moment too where he dropped a dime to Jabari Smith Jr. under the basket. It was right after that steal. And he kind of hesitated for a second, and he looked like he was going to take the ball all the way to the rack. Instead, he pitched it off to Jabari, who then turned around and got fouled and was unable to complete the and one opportunity, couldn't score the basket. And you could see Cam afterwards too. He was like, come on, man. Like, you gotta get me my assist here. I'm trying to rack up these numbers so I can show coach that I'm doing more than just being a bucket getter, right? So I really liked what we saw out of Cam Whitmore in this game. It really feels like he's focused on trying to round out the rest of his game, not just being one-dimensional on the basketball floor. Still a long ways to go. He's still incredibly young, still very raw. But you also look at his ability to get downhill, to score the basketball, to get hot in a hurry. And I do wonder, and I propose this question to you, dear listener, could Cam Whitmore be the missing offensive piece for this Houston Rockets team? Offense has been this Rockets team's Achilles heel all season long. I've been banging this drum for a while now that Cam Whitmore should be getting rotation minutes and that Sheppard would likely benefit from going down to the G League and trying to get up to speed running a full-blown, full-scale NBA offense, learning how to really hunt his shot. And this could potentially be the turning point in the Rockets season with the rotation, where if Cam Whitmore, again, making the most of this opportunity, could be that missing piece offensively, where when the Rockets go through those dry spells, right, being able to go to a guy off the bench like Cam Whitmore, who can get downhill, can force the issue at the rim, can get to the free throw line, can get hot from behind the arc in a hurry. All these different things that he brings to the table offensively are things that this Rockets team have desperately been missing throughout this season. Sometimes they just need a guy who can go out there and get them a bucket when it's not Fred, when it's not Jalen, when Alp's struggling. Cam can be that guy, but he can only be that guy if he's bought in on the other side of the floor, if he's bought in on being a truly well-rounded player. And it seems like Ime Udoka has given him the chance to kind of reinsert himself in the Rockets rotation here. And here's to hoping that he continues to make the most of this opportunity. And so far, through a couple games of impactful minutes, this one being Cam Whitmore's easily his best game of the Rockets season so far, maybe this will be the turning point where he's able to carve himself out some rotation minutes and maybe things continue to look a little bit different. I'm excited to see what things look like once Tari, Eason, and Dillon Brooks do return to the lineup. Will we continue to see Cam Whitmore? I do want to highlight, I think there are some additional benefits to Cam Whitmore playing guys who can really excel alongside him, like Jalen Green and Amin Thompson. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by Robinhood. Look, with Robinhood Gold, you don't need a silver spoon to eat up the financial favors of the 1%. Robinhood Gold allows others to get the rates and perks usually reserved for the high society. Now, the resourceful individual with Robinhood Gold can earn the very liberal rate of 4.25% APY on uninvested cash and be rewarded with a handsome 3% retirement boost on IRA account contributions. Robinhood Gold provides the privileges of a high net worth for any net worth. These generous benefits are now available for only $5 a month. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. Sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Terms apply. For product-specific disclosures, visit robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate may change. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold, LLC. And continuing on here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. Wanted to get into a couple more points about Cam Whitmore, his electric play, what he brings to this Houston Rockets, the dimension that he brings to this Houston Rockets offense. But really quickly, we'll run through some of the numbers from this game across the board. Again, the Hornets, they made the game a lot closer than it actually was by the end of it, only finishing with a final score 114-101. Rockets held the Hornets to just 41.6% shooting from the floor, only 27.8% from downtown. At one point, the Hornets were 2 of 20 from downtown, I believe, just shooting 10% from beyond the arc. So the Rockets defense was good in this one, but the Hornets shot making was also just flat out abysmal. They held LaMelo Ball well below his season average of 30. He's basically scoring 30 plus a night with relative ease because he has so much volume in his play style. He only had 23 points on 9 of 18 shooting, 5 of 11 from downtown. And then elsewhere for the Hornets, Mark Williams, 12 points on 4 of 8 shooting, 24 points for Miles Bridges. Basically, the only thing the Hornets really did well in this game was they had like 3 or 4 different poster level, highlight level dunks. Jabari got twice in this game, unfortunately. One by Miles Bridges and then one by Moussa Diabate off the Hornets bench. Diabate had like 2 or 3 posters all by himself in this game. But again, that was basically the one thing that the Hornets did well in this game. They also they rebounded the ball pretty well, especially in the offensive glass. That's one of the things that the Hornets do well. They're the one team that is ahead of the Houston Rockets in second chance points this season. Rockets are second in the NBA in second chance points. Hornets are number 1 in the NBA in second chance points. Both these teams are elite offensive rebounding teams. Rockets number 1 in the league. Hornets top 5 in the association. But it was just a dominant performance by the Rockets. Rockets had some really strong shot making early on. Fred VanVleet was cooking early in this game. He had 18, I believe, first half points. He only finished with 20, so he calmed down quite a bit in the second half of this one. But Fred finishing with 20 points on 8 of 16 shooting. He was 3 of 8 from downtown. He had 5 boards, 6 assists, block shot in there, which again, that's the Fred VanVleet styled block shot, the strip going up towards the basket. But it was good to see him kind of get going a little bit more offensively, especially after how much he's struggled as of late with his offense. And I do think it's important to highlight here, Fred's play is so much more important than just his offensive production. I know I've been harping on him, and he does have to be better offensively than what he has been, especially when the Rockets do start to face some upper echelon competition. They've got a really tough home stretch coming up here at Toyota Center against they've got the Dallas Mavericks, they've got the Boston Celtics, they've got the Lakers. Like, they've got a really difficult home stretch here coming up the end of December, beginning of the new year. And for the Rockets to be able to win against those upper echelon teams, Fred VanVleet can't have those performances where he's just a non-factor offensively. Although, again, he does bring a lot of other things to the table. He sets the table offensively. He gets other guys involved. He takes care of the basketball. He puts guys in their spots to be successful. So there's a reason that Ime has this trust in him. He really is the extension of the coaching staff on the floor. He's the vocal leader of this Houston Rockets team. And I say all that to say that every so often, the narrative creeps up that this Houston Rockets team would be so much better if they had signed James Harden instead of Fred VanVleet, and it's no question that James Harden is far and away the better player in a vacuum, absolutely, compared to Fred VanVleet. I'm getting down this rabbit hole. It's a light episode. We're talking about a Hornets blowout win. But again, for this Rockets team to have achieved what they did last season, to dig themselves out of being one of the laughingstocks of the NBA, to have the buy-in for the culture that Ime Udoka was trying to instill for these young Houston Rockets players, for the young core, they needed the right veterans around them. And yes, some people are going to point to, okay, every young player that's ever played with James Harden has said that he's been phenomenal for their career, phenomenal for their growth, that he's helped them tremendously. All these things can be true, but it can also be true that James Harden has, had his share of defensive issues over the years. He doesn't exactly buy in at times on the defensive side of the court. That's why you have to surround him with great defenders, right? That's generally the system. Harden is the system on offense, and then you put great defenders around him defensively, and you try to hide him on usually the worst teams or the opposing team's worst offensive player. You don't get that with Fred VanVleet, right? With Fred VanVleet, you don't get, or I apologize, with James Harden, you don't get a top-tier Houston Rockets defense. You don't get a defense where all the guys are bought in and where they're able to finish as a top 10 defense last year and that they're, flirting with being one of the best defenses in the entire NBA this season. That doesn't happen with James Harden at the forefront of the show, especially not now in his mid-30s. Maybe you could get away with it when he was younger, when he was in his prime, when the Rockets were flirting with being the NBA's best offense and one of the best defenses back during the championship years with Harden. But that's just not the case now. You needed Fred. He helped bring in and instill the culture that Ime wanted for this Houston Rockets team on the defensive side of things. So got down a major rabbit hole there. Did not mean to go down that rabbit hole, but I just, every so often those conversations pop up amongst Rockets fans on social media, and I figured I'd just address it here a little bit in the show for anybody who was thinking, oh man, maybe the Rockets made the wrong decision. They signed the wrong guy. The other element to consider too, as we navigate some of these trade discussions and trade rumors that are popping up this season and trying to figure out what the Rockets are going to be able to do down the line to become truly legitimate championship caliber contenders. Fred was a short-term signing, right? If the Rockets had signed James Harden, they would have had to sign him to a 4-year max. Fred VanVleet, they signed him to a 3-year deal, the third year being a team option. That's a ton of club control. The Rockets could be done with Fred VanVleet by the end of this season if they so choose, right? Or they could trade him at this deadline, or they could pick up his team option down the line and then flip him for a star-level player. There's a lot of different options that they have. They have a ton of optionality, a ton of flexibility with Fred's deal that would not have existed if you had gone in or all in on signing James Harden and bringing him back. You also wouldn't have gotten Dillon Brooks alongside James Harden, so that's food for thought as well. All right, I wanted to highlight really quickly here a couple more angles to consider with Cam Whitmore and how he kind of changes the dynamics of this Houston Rockets offense. First off, he gives the Rockets another athlete, another downhill threat, another guy who can get out and really run in transition. So I'm really excited to see what Cam Whitmore can bring to the table when the Rockets are fully healthy, right? Can Cam Whitmore soak up those Reed Sheppard, those Aaron Holiday minutes, those spot minutes in the rotation? Can he get the 5 to 10 minutes that have been given to Jock, Landale, and Steven Adams? And can Cam Whitmore be the 9th guy in the rotation with Jabari Smith Jr. sliding over to be the full-time backup 5? That's the way that you open up minutes for Cam Whitmore in this Rockets rotation. And then, effectively you have the starting 5, and then off the bench you give Amin Thompson, Tari, Eason, Cam Whitmore, and basically Jabari Smith Jr. all of the backup minutes on a consistent basis. Maybe you factor in a little bit of Aaron Holiday or Reed Sheppard as needed to kind of spell the guards a little bit, but I do think that's the way that you get Cam Whitmore anywhere from 10 to 12 minutes a night at a minimum to see if he can continue to be impactful on a night-to-night basis and see how bought in he is on the defensive side. Because if you get some lineups out there with Jalen Green, Cam Whitmore, Amin Thompson, Tari, Eason, Jabari at the 5, those are some insane switch everything lineups that are going to feast in transition, and giving Jalen Green weapons like Amin Thompson and Cam Whitmore, guys that can all play off of one another. It's not just about weapons for Jalen Green, it's about weapons for all three of those guys. Those three guys played really well off of one another last season, especially during the stretch of season where Alperen and Sengun went down due to injury, and it feels like that can be the best of both worlds, right? Where the Rockets can have two different identities on the court. They have one identity when Alperen and Sengun is out there, where they play a little bit more in the half court, where they're playing through Alperen and Sengun, through Fred VanVleet, but then they have their kind of run and gun, get out in transition, get defensive stops, and really, run, gun, fill it up, rely on their athletes, get those easy transition buckets with Jalen, Cam, and Amin Thompson in that Rockets kind of second unit. That's what I'm really excited to see from this team moving forward. Also got to give some shout outs and some props to Amin Thompson here for his shot making in this game against the Hornets. 19 points on 8 of 16 shooting. He hit 2 threes in this game, including an above the break three that he took with utmost confidence. He had a corner three in there. Amin Thompson continues to impress. He had a pull-up jumper in the mid-range where his confidence grows day by day in his shot. And again, that was the biggest knock on him, was will he be able to ever actually shoot the basketball? And here we are in year 2. He's already become a legitimately reliable corner three-point shooter. We're seeing him grow in confidence every single day with his shot elsewhere on the floor. His touch around the basket is getting better. When I say Amin Thompson is going to be a future, legitimate superstar, he's going to be a future superstar. The shot was going to be the only thing holding him back, and he's already making waves in that regard here in year 2. Give him a couple more years, year 3, year 4, year 5. He's going to be a legit superstar. He's already playing like an all-NBA caliber defender this season. He gave LaMelo Ball absolute hell in this game. The Rockets were just draped all over LaMelo in this game. Some great defense by the Rockets, and that was spearheaded by Amin Thompson, really taking the charge, leading the charge defensively with no Dillon Brooks. Whether he comes off the bench, whether he's in the starting lineup, Amin Thompson has been an absolute difference maker for this squad. He had a double-double. He had 11 boards to go along with his 19 points, had 3 assists, had a steal, had 3 blocked shots. He had 1 blocked shot on a drive. My goodness. I forget who was driving for the Hornets, but I think it was actually Seth Curry who kind of had lost. Maybe it was Seth Curry. I think it was Seth Curry. It was either Seth or LaMelo. One of the Hornets ball handlers was driving, got the switch and got Amin Thompson off of them and went to the basket and then elevated, and Amin Thompson just never left the play and snuck back in and just a monster block, swatted it all the way out of bounds. Just some ridiculous stuff from Amin Thompson. Some of the finishes that he had getting downhill and dunking the ball through multiple Hornets defenders. He's going to be an unguardable offensive force one day. It's a matter of when, not if, for Amin Thompson at this point. Coming up, want to share final thoughts from this game, as well as the trade buzz surrounding DeAaron Fox getting louder and louder day by day. We're going to get there in just one moment. First, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. FanDuel has so many different ways for you to pick up a dub. You can bet on which players will score a touchdown first and how many points each team will ultimately score, or you can just take a look at the outright betting favorites for the Super Bowl this season. Right now, the Lions plus 390, the Chiefs right behind them at plus 450, and then very little separation here. The Bills plus 470, the Eagles plus 650, and rounding up the top 5, you have the Ravens at plus 750. So for all those odds and so much more, head on over to FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And final segment here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast, home for everything Houston Rockets basketball. All right, I want to know, for our next episode, we're going to have a Christmas wish list episode for your Rockets, so be on the lookout for that one. I want to know what's on your Houston Rockets Christmas wish list. What do you want to see for this Houston Rockets team? We're going to talk about where they're at through this point in the schedule. 20-9 going into Christmas Day. 20 wins before 10 losses is a great metric. It's kind of a, you pay attention to which teams hit 20 wins before 10 losses and which teams hit 40 wins before 20 losses. Those tend to be the metrics for teams that are playing incredibly solid basketball throughout the regular season. So we're going to tackle kind of, looking at big picture where this Houston Rockets team is at, what needs to be on their Rockets wish list, either by way of trade or team improvements or specific player improvements, things like that. So let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments ahead of our next episode so that I've got some of your thoughts to work with and reference on the show. But final thoughts from this game. I want to give a lot of credit to Jabari Smith Jr. again, who has just been quietly stellar in his role as of late. He led the Houston Rockets in scoring in this game, 21 points, 7 of 14 shooting, 2 of 5 from downtown, was 5 of 6 at the free throw line, had 11 rebounds, couple of assists, some really solid defense being played in this game. He was a plus 25 in this one. Jabari, a team best, plus 25. Things were just rolling when he was on the floor. And again, the Rockets have a little bit of that secret weapon, right? When they can go to Jabari Smith Jr. at the 5 and you can throw in any array of the number of guards and wings that they have to throw out there to complement him, and then switching everything 1 through 5 defensively and then being able to space the floor on the offensive end. There really are so many benefits to him playing as the 5. It's not something that you want to rely on full time because, again, it gives the Rockets kind of a haymaker that they can throw, a curveball that they can throw at other teams. And it really does seem like Ime is truly fully leaning into Jabari Smith Jr. as kind of the full-time backup 5. Steven Adams did get some minutes in this game, but a chunk of those came at garbage time. There were still plenty of reps where Jabari was the 5 out there on the floor in this one. And it's been a really encouraging thing to see Ime kind of just fully embracing that and understanding that it does give them truly a competitive advantage over their opponents. Quiet night for Jalen Green, 6 points, 3 of 8 shooting. Other guys stepped up offensively, and Jalen didn't really feel the need to force the issue, so it wasn't a bad game, wasn't a good game, just kind of a non-factor, more or less, in this one. And then off the Houston Rockets bench, man, I want to just point out really quickly, Shante continues to just be a workhorse, and as much as he's been kind of at least to me, right, a little bit of a Rockets fan favorite over the years, right? He's the one piece that spanned from the end of the James Harden era through the Silas era and now here in the Ime Udoka era. And even though he's not a consistent part of the rotation, you see just how impactful he can be. And I kind of do wonder if maybe the Rockets, maybe the reason that Tari's being held out for some injury management, right, is maybe some, donning your tinfoil hat here, but it gives the Rockets a chance to maybe pump up the trade value of guys like a Shante, who they can maybe flip at this trade deadline, getting an asset or two back. Maybe it's, a few second round, 2 or 3 second round picks, or maybe a really late first round pick from a contending team that wants to be able to flesh out the depth on their bench. That's a possibility. I'll be honest, I'm going to be sad the day that Shante is no longer a member of the Houston Rockets. He's a pro's pro through and through. He's one of the best guys on the team. He's a great personality to have in that Rockets locker room. But at the same time, as wonderful as all this depth is for the Houston Rockets, you can't just sit on depth for depth's sake, right? If you can get an offer of some trade capital that can maybe grease the wheels for that star trade that the Rockets have their eyes on a little bit further down the line, then flipping Shante is the fiscally responsible thing to do from the Rockets front office perspective. So maybe these games that he's playing where he's, getting these minutes in place of Tari Eason are able to kind of showcase his talents to the rest of the NBA and say, hey, this is a guy, he's still got it. And if you guys want to float us some seconds or a late first, then, Shante, one lightly used Shante services can be yours this holiday season if you act now on, clearance rate Shante, because there was a time back in the day when the Boston Celtics were rumored at wanting to trade a good first round draft pick for Shante, and now Rockets might not even get a couple seconds, so they might have held on to him for a little bit too long. But it is cool to see him step up in games like this one. Sheppard struggling offensively in this game, only 1 of 7 shooting overall, 1 of 6 from downtown, but really making his presence felt literally everywhere else in this game. He had 4 rebounds, 2 assists, had a steal, had a block. Defensively, he was solid in this game, even though the Hornets, the scouting report, for some reason, teams really like to try and target Reed defensively, and there are some matchups where they get the better of him on the defensive side of the floor, but this really wasn't one of them. I mean, Reed was causing havoc on the defensive side. He was getting stops. He was D'ing up on guys like LaMelo Ball, like Josh Green when they tried to get downhill on him, like Miles Bridges on switches. I don't know. There were multiple moments where Sheppard kind of impressed me, where he was holding his own defensively against a Hornets team that really did want to go after him time and time again on that side of the floor. So shout out to Reed Sheppard for being able to hold it down on that side of the ball. That's kind of really it that I got for this game. I mean, look, Rockets took care of business against a bad, banged up Charlotte Hornets team. Really quickly, the garbage time minutes at the end of this game with Uncle Jeff and Jock, Landale, and Aaron Holiday checking in for the final, 5-6-ish minutes of that fourth quarter. Aaron Holiday got ejected, picked up 2 technicals super quickly in the fourth quarter. It was kind of ridiculous. Look, he had multiple drives where he got fouled, like very clearly got bodied on these drives. And the referees were probably just ready to go home. They were just ready to let the clock run, mercy rule, whatever. And they just wanted to get out of there. So I understand the refs not blowing the whistle, but at the same time, I also understand Aaron Holiday's frustration, right? You're playing for the final 3, 4, 5 minutes of an NBA basketball game. You want to play real basketball, right? Like if you drive and get fouled, you want to get your free throws. You want to put your points up on the board. Like you want to, count up, rack up your stats a little bit. If you're a garbage time player and that's all the time that you get on the floor, you want to make an impact while you're out there. So, he had probably 2, 3, 4 different drives where he got hit, got knocked down, landed on the floor, whatever. And then eventually he just tore into one of the refs, got picked up 2 techs and got walked out. I can't remember if I've ever seen a garbage time player get ejected at the end of a blowout game like that for a reason like this one. I'm very curious if you've ever seen a player like that, if you've watched the NBA for longer, if you've got, years and years of wisdom and experience. That's the nice way of saying if you're an old head. Let me know if you remember, if you have an example of a situation like this, but I thought that was kind of a wild end to this game. Also, I wanted to point out one other moment, and I need to go back and find the screen cap from watching this game. There was a moment where Amin Thompson had gotten knocked down on a drive, and Mark Williams was kind of hovering behind him and kind of like digging his knees into Amin Thompson's back a little bit, kind of like he was being annoying. And Amin kind of slapped him away when he stood up. And Ime was just looking on. And there was a little bit of jawing back and forth going when this happened. Ime was standing there and Fred and Jalen were next to him getting ready to check back into the game. Ime was just watching this kind of breakdown with Amin Thompson, getting angry at Mark Williams and barking a little bit. And Ime was watching this with the most sicko smile on his face. Just he was so into it. It was one of the biggest smiles I've ever seen on Ime Udoka's face. And it was just because that's who this team is, right? They don't back down from anybody. And Ime just seeing that pure joy and that sicko expression on his face of get angry, get into it. It was so funny to witness. I need to go back and find the screenshot and post it on the YouTube channel, post it on social media. It was too good to pass up on. Last thing I want to mention here, unrelated to this Rockets Hornets game. The Sacramento Kings are an absolute free fall. The Kings are bottoming out in an ugly way. Things are not looking good in Sacktown. Their most recent loss, a total just meltdown blowout loss to the Indiana Pacers. They lost 122-95 on Sunday night. And the buzz around the NBA and NBA circles and everything that I'm hearing is that DeAaron Fox is very much frustrated with his situation, and the 2 teams right now at the top of his ideal list to be traded to if he were to issue a truly formal trade request are the Houston Rockets and the San Antonio Spurs. Both those teams would love to pick up DeAaron Fox, and we'll have to unpack in our future episode, potentially our next episode, our wish list episode, what that would look like, the differences in trading for DeAaron Fox if they trade for him mid-season, because it seems like maybe things are accelerating as far as the downfall of the Sacramento Kings. If the Kings deal Fox mid-season, that trade looks very different for the Houston Rockets than if they were to try to trade for him this upcoming offseason. So we're going to have to break that down in a future episode. And I also jokingly put the bug out there on social media, and I'll leave you with this, dear listener, as we wrap up the show. The tired narrative is the Houston Rockets trading for DeAaron Fox. The wired narrative is potentially the Houston Rockets being in position to trade for Anthony Edwards, because the Minnesota Timberwolves are also having a very down season with a lot of frustration. Ant might be one of the few truly untouchable players in the NBA, but if any team was to put forth a really lucrative, attractive trade offer, it could be the Houston Rockets for Anthony Edwards. But would they have to give up too much to get Anthony Edwards? Would it be worth it? At the end of the day, we're going to have to visit that discussion in a future episode, but I want you to ponder and pontificate on that. Give me your thoughts on everything we talked about in today's episode. Let me know in the YouTube comments. Remember, the best way you can help us grow our show is to listen every single day on a podcast platform of your choosing. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Drop your comments there. Just do a drive-by, say Go Rockets. Subscribe to the daily Locked On Rockets newsletter. But as always, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, and we look forward to having you back right here at Locked On Rockets, your daily podcast home for everything Houston Rockets basketball.